Hello ratbags, it's Jade Plays Games. Welcome to a special Versus video. My Versus series is fairly new, and what it does is pits games against each other, but not really. It's just a chance to discuss the benefits of both games, the good points of both games, the bad points of both games, and whether or not one of them really can offer something different to the other. The aim of the series really isn't just to rag on one game over another, it's to highlight really what could be improved in that game, if any improvements can be made at all, and why you should invest your time in something rather than something else. It's all subjective, it's all about my opinion, but I do take into account a lot of the comments I read, a lot of your feedback as well, so make sure you comment if you disagree, if you agree. Absolutely pop it in the comment section down below. Much like my CULLING versus ARC video, this may polarize people and you may be upset about what I'm about to say, but I kind of doubt it in this instance because there is really a clear winner in terms of what game you should maybe invest in and what game you shouldn't. Incredibly, 6 months ago the CULLING came out of early access, and now they've already made a sequel. That has irked a lot of fans and a lot of players. There are definitely some benefits which we're going to go over, and I can see why they've done that, and I'm going to talk about some of the plus points with that. But there is a lot of negativity launching around this game, which is out now, 10th of July. No warning, literally the day beforehand, saying it's going to be out tomorrow, other than maybe a couple of weeks ago saying that it was going to be happening. It is here. The CULLING 2, for good or worse, has been released as a full game on Steam and Xbox One and PlayStation 4. Not an early access title, which makes a bit of a difference, but it is definitely something really unique I've not seen for a while. A developer do something maybe as crazy or as stupid. And then we've got the DARWIN project, which is a more of a Hunger Games style game. And some people might ask, how can you compare the two? Well, it's more about what the developments side of things did and how the developers both approached this genre of battle royale and how to release a game and what are the changes that both devs made to appease the community and work with the community. There is definitely a clear winner, and I'll put it out there right now. The DARWIN project has done some fantastic things in the last few months to really please their community and keep their game alive. That's something the CULLING failed to do. Will they make the same mistake twice? So come with me as we discuss and take apart both of these games, while one of them is doing fantastically well, responding to community feedback, and the other one just not so much. The CULLING has been available on Steam, Xbox One and the PS4, and the CULLING 2 is going to be launching on all three of them systems as well. The DARWIN project is only available on the Xbox One and Steam. Unfortunately, it looks like it's not coming to PlayStation 4 anytime soon. The CULLING was one of the first proper battle royale games to make a real mark on the scene. Way before PUBG, this game was out there and it was getting massive numbers. As you can see from these huge numbers, 12,000 players only a month after its launch. And actually I do believe that's when it released, with the rest of the time before that being periods of betas and open betas. Now, as quickly as it made such fantastic numbers at launch, it started to lose its players very quickly. There is a real norm at the moment with lots of these games hitting with huge numbers because of the promotion behind it, the YouTubers covering it, and then seeing a huge dip where you'll lose 90% of the players. And that did happen with the CULLING. But surprisingly, it did take 3 months for that to happen. At its bare bones, the CULLING was a battle royale Hunger Games style where you went around melee focus trying to be the last person standing. As you can see, as it progressed during early access, it dipped and dipped and dipped. The last real major content update for it last year in March, the biggest one, actually killed the community on it. Not to mention the fact that PUBG and lots of these other games also started being really popular, and that definitely took a dent out of the CULLING's fanbase. But it's been over a year now where the CULLING has been failing to get over 100 players a day. Nevertheless, the CULLING did have some good points. Like I said, it was one of the first ones. It had quite a funny announcer. The melee combat was pretty decent. It did have some animation issues and there was lots of complaints about the hitboxes, but for what it was, I thought it was fairly implemented fairly well. It had a huge mix of melee weapons and stim pack boosts that could give you various buffs while you're fighting in the game. It also had duo modes and it really was quite fun. I enjoyed it massively when it launched on Xbox One. In fact, it done pretty well for me. 31,000 views on just a very basic guide to know about the CULLING. I and many other content creators jumped behind this game because at the time it was fresh and new, and even by the time it came out to Xbox, it was still fresh and new. There wasn't that much choice in terms of battle royale games or hunger style games on the console. But to all intents and purposes, all that goodwill, all that big huge start it got from content creators playing the game, it all fell away to dust. It gave the company much needed investment and money, and they did make quite a lot of money as it's a paid battle royale game. But they didn't take it in the direction that the community wanted. If you go and take a look at any of the Reddit forums or even the Steam reviews, you'll see time and time again the fact that players are commenting saying the devs just weren't listening to the feedback. Often, or more often than not, the devs took on board a little bit of feedback, went with it, and then changed it very quickly and didn't really give it time to embed. They also implemented a skin system where you could actually buy skins, and it was looking likely they were going to go to free to play. However, they never did. Now, when you think about battle royale games, when you think about Fortnite and all the other ones that are coming out, you mostly think about them being free to play. PUBG, of course, isn't free to play, but you know what? If that went free to play tomorrow, you would see an incredible amount because people love free shit. But more importantly, it gives access to a game or genre that you maybe never would have tried unless it was free to play. Not everyone loves battle royale games, and right now there is definitely a huge market of people that do not want to see any more battle royale games. So when it's free to play, that often gives people no excuse of why they can't try it out. And this is where we start making comparisons to the DARWIN project. The DARWIN project has got very similar vibes. It is a Hunger Games battle royale style where you are there to be the last person standing. It's got more survival elements in it, and it's got a much smaller player base in terms of how many players are on the map. As you can see from the DARWIN project, it also had a massive peak. It launched in March properly, and by the time April swung by, it had just as many players playing it as the Culling did when it first launched. But even worse than the Culling, it lost nearly 99% of its player base. Now, that percentage is probably made up, but you get the point. Look how many players were playing it literally only a couple weeks later. That, by any standards, is a spectacular fall from grace. So why did it happen? Well, DARWIN project was just a little bit limited when it first launched. There wasn't that many game modes, and there wasn't that many buffs or interesting things to do with it. It had crafting elements just like the Culling, where you could craft weapons and do things in the game. And its TV caster shout out presentation where you can make choices about what the players were doing. You could directly control elements of the gameplay to make the players come back into combat or give them buffs or give them debuffs. That just really wasn't implemented that well, and people just found it a little bit boring. So the DARWIN project's in trouble, just like the Culling started being in trouble. No one's playing it, content has dried up around it on YouTube. So what do you do? In the case of the Culling, they released it on Xbox One, an early access version. They managed to get it on there, and that bumped up their revenue massively because, like I said, there wasn't a lot of call for that type of game. But it had huge launch problems. It took hours to find a match, and there were connectivity issues throughout the following days and weeks after launch on Xbox. DARWIN project took another approach. Well, actually, they took the similar one. They did release it on Xbox early access system as well as Steam. But you know what they did? They looked at their servers, they looked at how little people were actually playing their game, and they made it free to play. They responded, they looked at what was going on with other development, how the battle genre was going, how people viewed or wanted to take part in these types of games. And they've come to probably the best conclusion going. Battle royale games are really, really interesting facets of the modern gaming world. Fortnite has exploded and just takes over everything. Any battle royale game that now comes after Fortnite really does have to view and really work out whether or not it can charge people money. With such a big hitter in the terms of Fortnite, and then you've got PUBG, and then you've still got smaller ones that are coming up that are going to be huge. Can any developer afford to make a mistake when releasing a game that's so saturated or so hyped up in just the big two? That's why you need any advantage you can get while launching these games, and DARWIN project definitely took that on board. By making it free to play, they jumped back up to the 12,000 threshold. And right now they seem to be hovering around a good stable 700 to 1,000 players every single day. Now, it did cause a little bit of controversy because the players that previously bought the game were rewarded foundation packs, and some of them were happy with that, some of them maybe not so. Some of them quite rightly upset the game did go free to play after all. But in the world of free-to-play games offering multiple different foundation packs while they're in early access, so you get access to certain things or just actually be able to play the game, it's not such a big deal for me that it did go free to play, specifically if it's going to mean long-term players are going to be playing the game and there's going to be more players coming to the game to keep the servers fresh and alive. So, the Culling 2, let's get back on track, why this video is being made. According to the studio, Coldcast Productions and everyone's favourite host Chaz formally invites you to our biggest event yet. We're pumped up the brutality, expanded the battlefield, crammed in an arsenal new firepower and dropped in just the right amount of fresh meat competition to make the Culling 2 the most thrilling moment-to-moment action available on the planet of choice. You get the idea, it's hyperbole. What is interesting though, this Destructoid interview has given a bunch of quotes from other interviews that have gone with the league creator. According to Josh Van Held, they did dozens of patches and content updates, but after that they never saw their sales or players number return after the initial boom died down. To be honest, apart from a passionate core audience, the majority of PC players haven't seen or thought about the Culling in 2 years. The rest of the article goes on to highlight what I was talking about players saying how good it was at the beginning, but the updates and content they added afterwards kind of nerfed that experience. So why have the Culling 2 gone on to do this? Well, as he says, no one's really spoke about the game, no one knows about the game, and right now Battle Royale games are still hot property if you can get them right. So I don't even really mind the fact they're technically releasing a sequel to a game only 6 months after it first came out. The early access title is a little bit of a misnomer. So much store gets put into a game sometimes being in early access and then that release date. But often than not many games can actually make a huge impact when they come out of early access. Or if they do, it's very short-lived. Ark Survival Evolved and Rust are probably the two best examples of games that have still managed to maintain a player base during early access, and technically when they've launched officially they have seen their numbers rise, but they are very rare examples. Normally when you come out of early access you will get a slight bump on player sales, and obviously if it's not been on that console it's great because it finally comes to that console. But to all intents and purposes, he's right. You never get a better chance to make an impression than when you first launch, early access or not. There are similar games that I'm going to be covering very soon, including Memories of Mars that has really launched badly. It's so important in game dev, it's so important for people to buy into your game that you get that launch right, even if it is early access. So the Culling did that. They made their money and they decided, you know what, we've got a system, we've got an engine, we've got talented staff and people. Let's just cut the crap. Let's not try and rescue a game that people associate with being either dead or just not very good. Let's take all we've learned and put it into a brand new sequel. I can actually live with that. I think that is a fantastic idea. Rather than flog a dead horse, rather than keep going back over the same stuff over and over again. To me, it makes perfect sense to take everything you've learned and put it into a new game. So, where's the problem? Where's the criticism coming from? The Culling 2 is still a paid game. It's $19.99. They've learned nothing from the problems and issues other Battle Royale games have experienced in the past year or so. It doesn't mean you have to make your game free to play every game you release just because Fortnite did it. But if you want to compete against some of these major, massive, big games out there, you've got to have a compelling reason. And when your previous game did end up garnering more of a negative reception than a positive one, you really have got to make strides to change that perception. So going for a paid Battle Royale game that's going to be $20 US is definitely the wrong move. Considering they already started implementing skins that you could buy or crates or some sort of loot system, I never really got into it, I'm not going to lie. I looked at it probably once on the Xbox. It amazes me they've not just thought to put that bigger, bolder and better and make sure the game stays free. That's why I'm so impressed with the DARWIN project. They've even announced it's free to play on Xbox. Now there was a delay between it being free to play on Steam and free to play on Xbox, but I can understand why, because they've got contracts and got certain things they have to provide and make sure of on the console version. Not to mention the fact that they were implementing a system where you could buy skins, and that takes time. So I absolutely applaud the DARWIN project in terms of what they looked at, what they really viewed as what could help their game grow. Making it free to play has had a massive effect on them. Now I've not seen any Xbox numbers because console numbers are hard to get hold of, but in terms of the players that are playing it, in terms of the reviews that are put on the Xbox live stores, the DARWIN project seems to be doing okay for itself. That decision to make it free to play really helped. Now the devs can just focus on making a core gameplay experience. Sure, adding cosmetic items to buy and purchase if people want to, but they can focus on what they're doing, which is really innovative stuff. Their maps are going to evolve and change because they use a sort of tile system. So no map or game will ever be the same because them tiles will slightly be rotated. So although it may seem like the same setting, trees might seem to be in the same position next to another tree, that location of that area will be different every time you play. They're also making great strides in terms of the shoutcasting they're doing on it. Now sure, it has got its faults and problems. Some people would argue that the maps are too small, some people would argue that it's too melee focused, even though you can use a bow and arrow for most of the game. But that's all about preference and what we've come to used to expect from a Battle Royale game. I like the fact they're still trying to forge a path with what they consider a Hunger Games style, rather than just going for loads of guns. And unfortunately that is what the problem is with the Culling 2 as well. It's seen its success that Battle Royales have had with gunplay like H1Z1, PUBG and obviously Fortnite, and it has implemented that quite heavily into it. Now I've not played it yet and I'm going to. I want to really give it a fair chance in terms of the core game, what the game is actually like. But you know what? I don't want to spend $20 on a game. I don't want to spend $20 on the Culling 2 when the first one only just came out, where the first one's been dead for a couple of years. I think it matters how you present yourself and how you present the development of your game, and the Culling 2 really just hasn't shined through in the last few weeks. It's looking increasingly likely some sort of cash grab because the studio's in trouble, they need a quick cash injection, so let's produce what we've already got, label it the Culling 2, and then we can do post-content improvements, and then maybe somewhere down the line we could even make it free to play, but right now, right here, we need that money. There are some positive points, at least it's not early access. The Culling 2 devs have stated there was just no point, it doesn't matter, and that's where I got that whole first impression from. Literally their words that it didn't matter they was in early access. You never get a chance as much as you will when your game first launches. We've seen that with Cliff Bleszinski's failed Battle Royale game. First impressions matter, so if your game is full of bugs, full of issues, can't load in servers, you're going to have a hard time. The Culling had all of that when it launched on Xbox One, so I really hope they've got it right today for the PlayStation 4 and the Xbox launch. Not to mention the fact, because it's not early access, people are going to judge them very harshly and they're going to be much more critical than they were. So let's get back to what I said, what this video was, a versus video. Right now, even without playing the Culling 2, I'm going to go out on a limb and tell you guys, if you want to play a Battle Royale experience, if you're fed up of just being all about the guns and copycats of PUBG, then the Darwin project for me wins it. I love the fact that the maps are going to be added more and more implementation where it's going to be different every time you play. I love the art style of the game, and I really think that its focus more on just like melee and bows is really important. Not copying other games is really going to do it a service, and I think it's going to go from strength to strength from here on out. The only thing that lets the Darwin project down is the fact that it's not on a PlayStation yet. It's only on Xbox One and the Steam systems. It's fun, it's quick, it's interesting, no match ever feels like the same sort of match. The Shoutcaster system does add even more variety to it, and it adds a little bit more unpredictability. The Culling 2 is almost an extension of the Culling 1, and that's why I feel pretty confident in comparing both of these games against each other, but it's really not about the game, it's about the development and how they've produced the game. That's what I'm really comparing. I really hope the Culling is interesting. I want to give it a go, and I probably will end up buying it. But I will resent buying it because there are so many competitions, so many games out there that are providing experiences that are free to play. And right now what I'm looking at the Culling 2 from the trailers and the information I've seen, it just doesn't differentiate it from any of that stuff. So please, Culling 2 devs, make your game free to play, jump on the bandwagon, implement a skin system. A lot of the people did ask for more gunplay, you've implemented that. I'm sure you've put a bunch of improvements that you've learned from the first game. But none of that will matter if people don't actually play it. So get your act together and find a solution that means more people can play your game so soon after already paying for the first one. If you're on the PlayStation 4, you can go ahead and just keep playing H1Z1, or if you're on Xbox, then go ahead and try the Darwin project. Both of them will definitely offer you some real core gameplay experiences if you like Battle Royale or Hunger style games. As for the Culling 2, I'm going to give it a go, but I'm going to have that negative slant on it because it's already had a negative launch. Can they turn it around? Can the devs actually show they've got a fantastic game lying underneath all the stuff that's gone on? I really hope so. I hate to see devs not do so well. And I think they had a really good core set of ideas when they first launched. They just had real trouble implementing it, keeping people happy. Not to mention the fact that other games just blew up and took away some of their thunder and some of their steam. If you think I've been too harsh, let me know in the comment section down below. If you disagree with me and you love the Culling and you can't wait to play the Culling 2 today, or by the time this video is out you're playing it and it's amazing, let me know. Likewise, let me know how much you're enjoying the Darwin project, if you're enjoying it, and what do you think is really the better version or better game to play out of these two. Is it even fair for me to compare them? I'm Jade Plays Games, this has been a versus video. If If you've got any more suggestions about what games I should versus against each other, then let me know. Make sure you hit like on that like button. You've subscribed, you've got notifications turned on, and I'll see you ratbags for another one very soon.